Yo, so I thought I'd just do a quick video. It's the end of Valentine's Day, and I know it's not always the easiest for some people. I thought I'd do this video because not yesterday, day before, I struggled, had a bad day, and mental health comes out of nowhere. I first noticed my mental health really taking a dip after epilepsy. Once I got my epilepsy diagnosis, I went down a horrible rabbit hole of what's the point? I was a burden on my wife. I was a burden on the kids. I lost my driving license, and I'd done it myself because I got epilepsy because of my addiction. I overdosed 2 or 3 times, and it left me with epilepsy. So forgiving myself was never an option. I absolutely couldn't and can't and won't forgive myself for that. But to have any sort of life, I have got to move on. I know that. I do think not forgiving myself keeps me humble. It reminds me every day of where I'm from, how I got here, and why. Now, although obviously if you go back in time, I would absolutely change things, but if I think about it seriously, I couldn't, could I? Because I wouldn't have what I've got now, and I wouldn't be the person that I am now if I did go back in time and change everything. So look, we've got what we've got, you know. I know that, and it's easier said than done. A couple of days ago I had a dip, and my dip looks like I'm completely unreasonable, and I lock myself away. I literally lock myself in the bedroom and hide away. I don't want to talk. I don't want to see anybody. I don't answer my phone, and I'm just unreasonable. I don't want to talk, and I'll be honest, I don't want to be here. I can sort of maintain that now. I can be careful with that. It used to worry me a lot more than it does now, because of obviously what you know you could do. I won't do that. I won't commit suicide. I understand what that would do to people, but like I said in another video, you do rationalize it yourself. You do make it a rational decision. And that can be quite scary the next day when you realise that you've completely rationalised committing your own suicide, and that can be quite worrying. And I have spoke to Samaritans before. I didn't get sectioned, but I had to go to the hub, and I had to check in daily because of my mental health and because of how worried people were of me doing harm in myself. I also, with all this happening, found that my temper was getting worse and aimed at the people that I loved the most, which was my wife and kids, and that wasn't great. I don't get me wrong, I never beat the shit out of them or anything like that, but my temper was out of control, to the point where, yeah, it was abusive, absolutely. And these are all things that you can sort of rationalize. My addictions then, drink and drugs, used to dull all that out. All the noise, it used to dull the noise out of, you know, all the bad stuff that I'd done. It only became liberating when I became honest. And honestly, starting to help other people really started to help me, because then I could see light at the end of the tunnel. I could see that my help for other people was helping them get through a tough time. And this, even this, I know who I'm speaking to. I speak to a lot of you personally, privately. Again, it's awoodworkinglife@hotmail.com if you want to speak to me privately. And I'll get back to you, and a few people do, and I do speak to you, and it really helps me. And the reason I do these videos on a night time is because my brain races extremely fast at night, and I can't stop the noise sometimes. And some of you guys will understand what that means. So speaking out loud is like my therapy. So rationalizing my craziness, I do hear voices, not all the time. When I get really low in the darkness, I call it the darkness. People call it the different things. Mine, I call the darkness. And when the darkness creeps up on me, I do hear voices. Not always my own voice either. It started with my own voice, or what I thought was my own voice. But that took a long time to admit as well. Admit that I was actually hearing voices, and I've been to different classes and things about that as well. I'm going through a bipolar diagnosis at the moment because of the very, very high highs I have and the very low lows, and very little in between. This is probably the most in between I get, is probably midnight. I'm probably the most level. In the mornings, I am, if you look at my videos, probably very manic and irrational and a bit crazy. On an evening, the other end, I'm very somber and very quite low, and this can happen not necessarily mornings and evenings. This can happen for days. I mean, I can be absolutely manic for days and not sleep for days, and it gets worse and worse and worse, and then the crash is really bad. But admitting to yourself that there is a problem, and seeking out some help is the next step. And reaching out and just speaking to what you class me as a normal person, but reaching out to other people is a massive first step. And I know a few of you people have done that, and keep doing it. Like I say, I looked into it a little bit, and I found out that suicide is the biggest killer of men under 50. I mean, that is horrific. In fact, the biggest bracket is between 45 and 50. So my bracket, I am 45. So between 45 and 50 is the highest suicide rate in men. In America, it's men under 45. But in Britain or UK, it's under 50. And that's the biggest killer. And it works out about 1 an hour. It's about 8,500 people a year, 8,500 men a year. Devastating. And absolutely, I was going to be on that list, and absolutely wanted to be on that list. And that's horrific to say now, you know, in the cold light of day. And when I think about that, it's terrible. And I think of my kids watching this, and I think of my wife watching this, and my friends, and thinking, oh God, you know, that's terrible. It's a terrible thing to admit. But if we don't start admitting these things, if we don't start talking about these things, other people don't know, and think that we should lock it away and not talk about it. You know, my dad would have been a bit of, come on, pull yourself together, man. What's wrong with you? It's not always as simple as that. And if you know it's not as simple as that, and you're a big hairy man, tattooed, who gives a fuck, and we still need to talk. Doesn't make you weak, you know. Talking doesn't make you weak. In fact, I've found such strength in talking. I know I bollock on about stoicism, but it's something that I found that really, really helps me. It's massively helped my temper. So yeah, look up stoicism. It's a philosophy. It's not a religion. I'm not a religious person at all. I don't really know where I stand on religion. I class myself as an agnostic. And again, I had to look that up. I had to look up what I was. It's basically, an agnostic is basically somebody that believes there could be something else. I think there could be. It's just not proven. I can't see it. I just can't see it. I don't think there is. And that's what made me, at first, I used to say I was an atheist. But an atheist is, I absolutely don't believe and won't believe. An agnostic is, I'll believe if you prove it to me. So I believe there's hope out there. I do. And I watch certain other things. I watch things about ghosts and entities. No, I don't believe in ghosts and entities and things. However, you know, there's so many of these things, so many of these films, so many of these sightings, so many of these things, and you just think, could there be something else? Could there be something more? Who knows? I hope so. So that's why I'm not sort of scared of it. I'm not sort of scared of Ouija boards. I'm not scared of seances. I'm not scared of ghosts. I'd love to see a ghost. You know, I absolutely would think that's amazing. But anyway, I'm off topic. This is what I do. So, yeah, if you're still here after 10 minutes, wow, for a start. Thank you is another one. And if you need anything, any help, reach out. I will get back to you, I promise. Like I say, nothing is off the table for me. If you want to ask me any questions about addiction, mental health, I can only go on my experience. I won't say what I think you should do and shouldn't do. I can only say what has helped me or hasn't helped me, or what's worked for me and what hasn't. Or just know, I want you to know that I'm here. And sometimes that's enough. Knowing somebody's here, knowing somebody that will speak to you that maybe is as crazy as you are. I'm literally an email away. So listen, have a good evening, have a good morning. Reach out if you need somebody. There'll be somebody there. And if there isn't and you desperately need somebody, honestly, reach out to me. I'll get back to you, I promise. And we'll do it together. So have a good one. I'll catch you next one.